name is Matthew Richard Perry. I have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's degree, master's of science, and PhD in electrical engineering. I think graduated in 84, 87, and 91. And I worked in between all my degrees to expand my horizon a little bit, but also make some money so I could, pursue that next degree. So all 3 from Oklahoma State. Born in Dearborn, Michigan. And we moved back to a small mill town called Sheboygan, Michigan, on top of the Mitt. It's a Procter & Gamble town. Grew up there. My father was the last of 12, and so we had lots of cousins, uncles, aunts, a lot of outside activity, hockey, fishing, what have you. It was a great place to grow up. Always been fascinated a bit by shortwave radio, and back then I don't think it's still the case today. You still have to learn Morse code, and listening to ships going from Lake Michigan to Lake Huron. Always fascinated with that. And then in the later 70s, it was the beginning of the computer revolution, where there was actual homebrew computers that were pretty unaffordable by oneself. And so around the country, there was these computer clubs basically propped up in local areas. And I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, used to go to the computer club, and was absolutely fascinated with what computers were, even though I really didn't have a comprehension of what they would certainly become. But just the fact that I couldn't understand how this thing was doing what it was doing spurred me to take my first electronics class in high school. And after that, I remember my very first circuit was making an LED blink, and it was like, wow, that was magic. And I guess that's what we say, for me, the light, turned on, and I decided to be an electrical engineer from that day, and I haven't wavered since. I grew up with modest means, and living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, needed to go to a place that, I could work and afford going to school, but I also understood the value of an education, and I wanted to get the best electrical engineering degree possible. Did what all I think students do. You survey around the country, you send off a bunch of applications, try to get grants or what have you. And in the end, because I was going to this computer club, I knew people in Tulsa, and I knew some OSU grads, also knew some OU grads, although of course I didn't talk to them as much as the OSU grads. I was satisfied that the education would be great. I felt at home when I visited Stillwater, and so it's when I decided to go to OSU. What I learned and the people I met at Oklahoma State are what's allowed me to do the things that I've done in my career. I would not be where I am today if I would have, I think, selected some other school. It's just so meaningful. I mean, I love the work that I do. I love having fun at what I do. I love learning, and I love being close to people and collaborating. And I believe comes from, the core culture and what Oklahoma State stands for. So it's just extremely meaningful to me and my family. A short history of my career since I graduated. Basically, I've had 3 careers within one career. The first career was in the defense industry. That's where I really was a true engineer, doing a lot of engineering work. It was absolutely fascinating work. But when I was a professor and I was still doing research in the defense industry, I kind of wanted to switch. And my story is, if you remember the film The Graduate, and Benjamin's floating in the pool, and the person outside, he's like, Benjamin, plastics. Somebody said semiconductors. And I decided, I want to get into semiconductors. And I looked on, at the time, the bulletin board called Usenet, trying to find a job in semiconductors, and found one in Austin, Texas. I haven't left Austin since. And so I did, a couple decades in the semiconductor industry, got to do a lot of different roles, from marketing to business to eventually becoming GM and then CEO of several companies. Fascinating, love it, still involved in semis today. But about 12 years ago, I took a little bit of time off, kind of do a recharge after doing some startups. Then I decided, I really wanted to do something different. So my third career has been at Microsoft, where I've been able to work on Windows. So all of you that use Windows today, there are as many parts of Windows I helped architect or design, or hyperscale systems at cloud scale, which I'm working today. There's no stopping. Who knows? There might be a fourth career. So we'll see.